who, with not as unfortunately, and it shouldn't be this way, not as much name recognition, just as progressive, works just as hard, is basically lockstep with every other progressive. And she has not really had this celebrated, along with a lot of her other advocacy, as much as those who may, be a little bit more braggadocious or a little bit more boisterous on YouTube. And that's fine. I mean, I'm skipping out on YouTube, but on Twitter. And that's fine. Like you can tell Pressley, if you go to her Twitter account, she's focused on getting the job done. Like you can just kind of tell. Like she lets her work speak for herself. So it's pretty admirable. So I want to go ahead and check out this article by WBUR in Massachusetts. The article is entitled, Pressley's PAC will boost Democrats, including those challenging incumbents. So it says the U.S. Representative Ayanna Pressley is launching a new leadership political action committee to help boost Democratic candidates, including those challenging incumbents. The committee, called the Power of Us PAC, will also fund civic engagement efforts and help cultivate a diverse pipeline for community activists and organizers to access federal level campaigns. Something Pressley said is necessary to knock down barriers that many newcomers face. The article goes on to say the Boston Democrat told WBUR that she learned those challenges firsthand while building her own campaign, which successfully defeated Democratic incumbent Mike Capuano. During my congressional campaign, I said that this was not about any one person, Pressley said. The only way that we would be able to effectuate change in a deep, meaningful, and sustainable way is to build a movement. Pressley has criticized policies she says creates barriers to political newcomers seeking to disrupt the status quo, including a Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee rule she said will have a disparate impact on women and people of color. She said her new PAC is not a response to that or any other policy. The former Boston City Councilor called the PAC a continuation of work she began as a candidate at the local level. Leadership PACs were once only the domain of lawmakers in leadership positions or those who aspired to rise to such positions or to powerful committee chairs. But Pressley's PAC is doing something that's kind of unprecedented for a congresswoman. So she said it will, for example, support efforts of organizations to ensure 2020 U.S. Census count is correct, which would impact federal funding and the shape of congressional districts. So for those of you who are big when it comes to gerrymandering, which we should all be worried about gerrymandering, this is a big deal. She said the committee also will fund boot camps for would-be federal level campaign and legislative staffers and advisors to increase the diversity of voices who help formulate campaign messages and policy positions. So I'm focused not just on who puts their name on the ballot, but again, the people behind the people and diversifying that bench, Pressley said. I think there are so many people that are already leading that have the natural abilities or the professionally transferable skill sets to assume these roles on campaigns on the federal level, but they haven't been invited. So, this is fantastic because, and y'all know me, I'm really big when it comes to like, if you have something and you also have the ability to teach, I understand not everybody has that ability to teach, right? But if you have that yearning, that ability to teach as well, and you are put in a position like an independent journalist, you have to cultivate a culture that is beneficial to the movement, because all of us at this point, if you consider yourself to be part of the movement, you're just an extension, a continuation of the movement. Just one of its its hands, its feet, its fingers, its ears, its eyes. There are many different places in the movement. Activists have their place, organizers have their place, Congress people have their place, senators have their place, presidents will hopefully have their place. And when I see a Congress, especially because as of late, it's been a lot of me. And it's by nature, right? We're in campaign season and we are in the age of social media. Ayanna Pressley, quietly behind the scenes, has been working to make it about everybody. And this is something that has not really made the news, like made YouTube news. And once again, I said this on Twitter and I'll say it again here. I am ashamed of myself. I am sorry because I have been doing you all a disservice. And just personally, from an activism standpoint, as a black man who is part of this progressive movement and living in this progressive world that understands that a lot of the times our achievements can be overshadowed and under discussed because you know how the game goes. Whoever runs the show, oftentimes the people who look like them or cater to that message or that identity a little bit more, they get more credit. And it is what it is. We're working to break that down. But for me to regularly acknowledge the realities that progressives of color face and to not bring up Ayanna Pressley more, that is my fault and a shortcoming that I will try my hardest to reconcile when going into the future. Because often I talk about Ilhan Omar, often I mention AOC's name, and I also mention Rashida Tlaib's name in the same breath as Tulsi and Bernie, and I have forgotten Ayanna Pressley's name far, far too often. And so I will try to reconcile that in the future, and I really, really hope that other progressives with platforms will do the same as well. Because what she is doing now, there is a legitimate argument that she supported Hillary in 2015, excuse me. But that's like, guys, come on. Not Kim Iverson, excuse me. Well, Kim Iverson, not even 2 years ago, would have technically considered herself, quote unquote, part of establishment media. Kimberly Ellis, the should be Democratic National Chairwoman of California Democratic Caucus, she should be that. She supported Hillary openly. And then when she realized what kind of party it was and what kind of person you had to be, she completely flipped the script and started calling Hillary and all of her little cronies out and ran as a progressive. Tulsi Gabbard didn't support Hillary, luckily, but she's also involved in the national conversation of politics regularly. When you're somebody like Ayanna Pressley, who's hyper-focused on local politics, I can understand why you can lose a little perspective. I see it happen all the time. Local politicians reach out to me regularly to get updates on what's happening in the national conversation, like to pinpoint things that are happening in the national conversation, because they literally don't know, because they're focused on doing their job for their community. So it's not uncommon to see that disconnect. But man, since she's been in Congress, she's been in lockstep with the progressive conversation, with progressive voting, and I think that she's making tangible efforts and making tangible gains, and literally making sure that other people can be put in the same position as her to do the same thing. You notice she isn't speaking for people. There should be this. We should have this. She says, nah. I'm gonna help make sure it happens. It's always great to see the waving and the rah-rah and all that good stuff. There should be. But what are you doing to see that happen? Yes, passing tangential legislation that may or may not work as intended is a great start. Don't get me wrong, that's a great thing. However, when you have someone that is going out of their way to bring up and train activists, progressives, staffers, this is a big thing. Staffers have progressive people have not often, by and large, have not been trained to win elections. Okay, there's a difference between wanting to do the right thing. There's a difference between being an activist. There's a difference between being an organizer, and there's a difference between being a campaign staffer. It's totally different when you're a staffer. Okay, so I think that we need to start paying closer attention to Ayanna Pressley. If this is the type of legislation she is going to continue to, or the type of action she's going to continue to take. This is basically her putting her money where her mouth is. And I can't wait to see what tangible gains it produces. I will be taking a very close look at the politicians who come up through this PAC, and activists who may potentially come up through this PAC. And I would hope that it's not limited to Massachusetts. I imagine it's something that will happen around the world. And I'm going to reach out to the campaign itself, or to her staffers, and to her personally, to figure out whether or not figure out some information on this, to figure out if it's national, and if it is, how can more people get involved? Because this is an amazing achievement, and I hope that she continues to make these type of gains for the movement, which is awesome, selfless. We need more of it. Thank you very much, Ayanna. From me to you as an activist, and as I'm apologizing, because as a journalist, and to my supporters as well, as a journalist, I have failed to adequately celebrate Ayanna Pressley as a progressive since she's taken over office, and I hope to reconcile that in the near future. So thank you, Ayanna. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Like the video, share it. It needs to go everywhere. People need to see this as a shining example of what to do when you get a little name recognition, a little bit of power. So please share it. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. By donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance.